This is a historical true crime podcast, One Nation Under Crime, and we are your hosts. I'm Kayla.
And I'm Leah.
We are getting to the Burr months, as I heard someone refer to it as the other day. The Burr months: September, October, November, December. And you know what? I feel like this is one of the happiest times of the year, to be honest. We have Ghostober coming up. You know that's my favorite time of year.
Well, September is the best of the burrs.
I was going to say, and I have a lot of people close to me that have September birthdays. My anniversary is September. My boyfriend's birthday is September. My boyfriend's son, September. You, September. I mean,
what am I? I'm your Martha.
You're you.
I'm your Martha. that's how you should. That's how you should introduce me. This is my Martha.
And if anything were more fitting for our friendship, if anyone were to take, we'll say that in the past month, like 2 pretty massive movies have come out. And if we were to just say, like, if you were to take a guess which one Leah has seen and which one I've seen, what would you say?
I have almost seen both of them.
I have for sure seen Oppenheimer, and you have for sure seen Barbie.
And I totally went with a group of girlfriends, and I totally rocked my hot pink dress, and I totally got so many compliments from other girls like, yes, girl, you did it right. You knew the assignment.
I definitely saw Oppenheimer. I saw it that Saturday, and we went and saw it, and it was so good.
Well, I want to see it. The only reason I didn't see it is I have a new schedule now. I have a new job, and I have to get up at, very exciting, but I have to get up at rude o'clock to go.
As we like to say.
Oh, so rude.
And it's a very long movie, and it's very, as a person who is ADD, ADHD, AUDHD, OCD, all those fun things. Definitely glad I took my Adderall before I went, because it's just long. Like, it's a very long
Michael
movie.
said, well, see, my dad asked Michael to go with him to see it, and it was on a weeknight, and I had to get up at rude o'clock the next morning to go see it. Like, I was asleep in bed when Michael got home.
Oh yeah. How did he like it? How did he
He did. He liked it. And he was like, you'll like it. And
Your
I
dad
know that
saw
I will.
It?
Yeah.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, and Michael did say, he says, there were a few scenes that I was kind of uncomfortable with your dad with. And I was like, uh-oh.
I will say, I told someone at work, because we were talking about Oppenheimer, and they were like, oh my God, I haven't seen it yet. I need to go this weekend to go see it. And I was like, let me tell you, Oppenheimer was amazing. And 2, for anybody who, like, this isn't giving away anything, but if anybody knows, like, who Jean Tatlock is in the Oppenheimer, like, in all of that, if you know who Jean Tatlock is, which she was like a psychologist who was like also a suspected communist, and anyways, she's played by Florence Pugh. And let me just tell you, I told someone at work the other day, I just sent them, I said Florence Pugh as Jean Tatlock, and I sent them the 2 emojis that are I sent the big eyes that are just looking to one side. And then I just sent the flame emojis, and I just said, that is all I can say before I cross into the world of NSFW. So just know that that's what you're getting into, because let me tell you, one is a brunette. She's gorgeous as a brunette.
Oh, she's absolutely beautiful anyway.
2, in some of the ways that you do see her. I was like, women are beautiful. They are truly one to behold. They truly are. And she is very gorgeous. And Cillian Murphy is in it. And we've discussed ad nauseum on this podcast my love of Cillian Murphy and Peaky Blinders. So you know that when I saw Cillian Murphy was going to be in it, I was like, ugh, so good. And I will tell you, RDJ better win Best Supporting for his.
You know, I'm all about some RDJ.
It is astonishing, one, how much I hate him in this film just because of who he's playing. He's not a likable character, which is very jarring for him. I'm not used to not liking him in something.
Mm-hmm.
And two, he's so good at it that I don't even recognize him as him.
Now I really have to see it.
Very odd. But I will say Florence Pugh. Wow. She is. There's this thing where like other women on TikTok will like comment on like little videos, like little thirst trap videos of other women, and they all they put is "I love when women," and that's all they'll say. And man, her and that I love when women. And yeah, there are 3 specific scenes that I can think of that I'm sure JMK was a little uncomfortable in his seat. He scooted a little farther away from his dad during those because they are a lot. But
oh dear,
it's very good. I will say. Well, I have not seen Barbie. I will say it was not at the top of my list.
It was good. Now there was silly fluff, which we knew there would be.
Always is going to be
because Barbie, but the attention to detail.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing.
It's got nonsense, but it's also a really good message about women.
Yeah.
And, you know, what's expected of women now and what we can do and what's expected of us and the pressure that we put on ourselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's just, and you kind of don't expect it. And it's, you know, like, I didn't want to cry in the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
That was not expected. But I will tell you, when they come up to the weird Barbie.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, I went with my sister, and well, not just my sister, but she was sitting beside me, and they were coming up to the weird Barbie. Like, she had like her hair was like cut, and you know, all the crazy. She and I just start laughing, and she's like, "That's my Barbie," and I was like, "This is all your fault."
Mm-hmm.
I was like, "It was you, people like
you." It's so wild, and like, I honestly, because of who I am as a person, I hate that they came out with both movies on the same weekend, because now Oppenheimer is one of the biggest movies to ever premiere at a box office and not get number 1 in the box offices it's the first time it's ever happened. Like, they've exceeded way more than others have come out, and they were like, this is the highest grossing film that has ever come out that has not hit number 1 at the box office. And it's sad to me because, I mean, I am me and I will always be me. And I will just say that it's real irritating when Barbie comes out over Oppenheimer, when Oppenheimer is such a better story. And like,
well,
and it's real, and that's what irritates me so much, is it's a real story, and it's like, I get it, and I understand. Barbie is the movie that one, people were waiting on for years because it took forever for it to come out. And then two, like Greta was the director of it, and like it's a huge accomplishment for her. And like I get all of that.
Yes.
And it's not
women.
lost. Like all of that is not lost on me by any means. But I am such a history
Oh,
nerd and
absolutely.
such a lover of history that I hate that these movies came out at the same time, because I really wanted Oppenheimer to get like all, and it has gotten a lot of critical acclaims, but I feel like he just totally has way overshadowed that movie. And it is, I studied film. So a lot of people, like I did broadcast, but I also studied film. I took a lot of classes that studied film and studied the way that films are made. I think that Christopher Nolan is a fantastic director. He was the one that he did the Batman movies. He did all of that. He's wonderful in the way that he's very thoughtful. And there were some, like, everybody knows I'm not an emotional person. I'm very rarely emotional. There are a few times I have been emotional in things lately. I mean, just like off the top of my head.
Been to
Taylor
any
Swift,
concerts lately?
Taylor Swift and Oppenheimer. Like those are, but it's because the I've studied so much in film, and I've studied so much of like how film is made and how different. I'm very keenly aware of directors' choices and how they do things. And in like this, again, it's not giving anything away, when they set off the testing A bomb in Oppenheimer, the way, the genius way they use sound, or in this case, I'll say they don't use sound, and the way that they make it, because when a bomb goes off from where they are, from where they're watching it, it's a very long distance away. So when the effects of that actually do come full force and do hit you, it is quite a while after it has actually. And a lot of people don't take those things into consideration when they're making a movie. They want to hear like all the loudness. They want to hear all of this. But it's one scene it's jarring to hear when it occurs, because it goes off and the movie just goes completely silent, like dead silent for like two, and you're seeing all these things that should be super loud that are going on. You see all these people, like they didn't know if it was going to work. All these people are super happy, but it's dead quiet. And in the exact amount of time that it would take for the force of that explosion to, one, be heard and two, be felt, all of a sudden when you're watching the movie, it just happens out of nowhere. And you jump, like it's so like you didn't expect it, because it was, you just all of a sudden, the way they kind of do it is you expect that all of a sudden when the sound does come back, that you'll hear people like cheering and all these other things.
Right.
And that's not what they do. And it's just that combined with a lot of other things. And like I said, everybody should know by now, like this podcast, I'm a big history nerd, and I am very keenly aware of how much emotion is taken away from history, and how much the story of someone can be written in one way, and that's not at all what happened. And I think the entire situation of Oppenheimer and the A bomb and everything that occurred, it humanized him, that in a way that a lot of people didn't expect, and a lot of people who didn't know the true story got like really offended. And it's just one of those things that I was like, man, like I was thinking about it again this week, because it came out that like it's the highest grossing movie to ever not hit number one in the box office. And I was like,
that's amazing.
Man, that is really depressing too. Like it's just because I know, like I love Cillian Murphy. I love Robert Downey Jr. Like love both of them as actors, and like there's never going to be two more deserving people to like get something like that. And Cillian Murphy he's always been one of those actors that's kind of taken lesser known roles. Like he was in Batman. For those who don't know, he is Peaky Blinders, but he was the Scarecrow in the Christopher Nolan Batman movies. And he was in a lot of others. He's got a very small role in Tron. He's been in like a bunch of stuff that you like see him, but this was kind of the first time he was ever in something like this big. And so I'm like, why couldn't y'all have done it like a month apart? Really? Y'all couldn't have just
come on. Barbieheimer was such a big thing for people to see.
Oh, people were seeing
Barbie
both. It was
and
so funny.
Oppenheimer. Yeah. My nephew did that. One of my nephews did that. Went to see both in the same night.
It's very good. And I need you to.
I will see it.
I need you to ask Michael more about his experience, because I need to know what was going through his head as he was watching this movie, especially with your father. That is one there. Like I said, there are 3 scenes in my mind that I can just imagine he wanted to crawl out of his skin and just skitter away. Then sit.
Yeah, he said that he got uncomfortable.
That is an understatement.
He said there a few times he was uncomfortable,
but it's very good. So I'm sure a lot of people have seen it. I would love to know y'all's. Tell us what you thought. Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad. I'm glad I didn't go with them because I was invited.
Yeah, you would have. You definitely would have been a little uncomfy. There's a few parts you would have been real uncomfy. Me, I was like, oh, she hot. And no, and my boyfriend's beside, like, I could see him like looking at me and looking at the screen, and looking at me and looking at the screen. and I just looked at him and I went, oh, she's hot. She's good. He was like, yep, she looks fine. Yep, she sure does. And I'm like, am I wrong? Does she not? And he's just like, I'm not falling for this. I'm not doing this.
She doesn't compare to you, babe.
I mean, I can admit when another woman is very attractive, and she was very attractive. I also not the same weekend, the weekend after, saw The Haunted Mansion,
which was adorable.
I was pleasantly surprised. I will say that. I think they did not. I think they should have come out with it in October. I feel like it would have done much better in October. I think it was a really weird
early
time.
For it to come out.
I think it was a really weird time for it to come out,
and probably because
it would have done better.
You know what my thinking is? My thinking is they did that so people could do Halloween costumes. They could have that prepared if people could do Halloween costumes. That's really my thought.
But they could have done it at the beginning of October and still come out with the same. And I don't think it would have been as much. I don't think it would have, because the costumes, there's not that much there in the way of costumes. If you've already seen the first one, I mean, the Hatbox Man, yeah, he was a more in it character than in the last one. He wasn't in the last one at all. And Tiffany Haddish's character, like, she was new, so I could see hers being.
I love her.
Oh, she was great. But I
love her, period. But she was awesome in the movie. But I love her. She makes me laugh. She can be so raunchy sometimes, though, but she makes me laugh.
Those were the only 2 costumes that I could think out of all of it that would be done, that would be recognizable immediately. The others, yeah, you could do pretty easily without needing a costume, but I think they should have come out with it later. But I will say, as far as movies go, if you're making a movie after a ride, which, for those who do not know, that came first. Anyways, it was accurate to the ride.
It was really good.
It was very accurate. So it was very good. So yes, we've seen, it's been a month of a lot of things. It's been a month of concerts. It's been a month of movies. New job. It's a month of, to those who celebrate, 1989 Taylor's version is coming out in October. So I know we're all excited about that. So,
back to school.
There's that. Back to school. Kids are back in school. It's been wild. So yeah, lots of things.
This week was the 2-year anniversary of Gotcha Day for Leonard and Sheldon.
Yep. So
2-year anniversary.
Lenny and Shelly, we got them. And
we're not calling him Lenny. He does not pet the bunnies.
No, he's wild. But yeah, it's been a lot. There's been a lot going on. Don't know if I mentioned. Yes, I did see the formidable and gorgeous songbird Taylor, so that was amazing too. I will speak to it about it with anyone. If anyone would like to know any information, I'm here. We don't have enough time on this podcast for me to discuss it. So yeah, it's been our lives. It's been
and she lets me know via text at 4:30 a.m. with a picture of her feet propped up on her.
I mean, I'm like, hey, I'm doing something. Okay, bye. And so,
like if you get a text from somebody at 4:30 a.m., somebody better be sick or dying, or like I thought there was like something bad happening.
No.
Like I was concerned.
It's
like
hilarious that you
where
say
do
that.
I need to be? Do I need to bring a shovel?
No.
What?
Well, and it's funny because Taylor
who are we headed for?
Taylor has a song called "I Did Something Bad," so it's funny that she said that. But so yeah,
I was ready. I was ready to come and do what I needed to do.
We've been busy, guys. We've had a lot going on, and we've got an episode for you this week. So we'll hop into it for now. So January 14th of 1864, alleged outlaw George Lane, aka Clubfoot George, was hanged by the Montana vigilantes in Nevada City, Montana. So we got a outlaw story for this week. Alleged.
Was he in relation to Peg Leg?
No.
We got Clubfoot and Peg Leg.
We do not. There's none that I could find. So, but
Clubfoot is actually a real thing.
It is. We'll discuss it a little bit. So yeah, we're gonna get into that. And we're going to hop over to Leah because she's got some info for us for 1864.
I do. I'm going to start with the deaths.
Ooh, going real morbid.
I know.
Okay.
But then we'll go to birth. So we'll end on a high note. So, do what?
I said that works.
That works? Okay, good. All right. January 13th, Stephen Foster, composer known as the father of American music, like Oh, Susanna, Camptown Races, and Beautiful Dreamer. He passed away. February 25th, Anna Harrison, former First Lady of America, William Henry Harrison's wife, she passed away. March 10th, Jack Slade, stagecoach and Pony Express superintendent, instrumental in the opening of the American West and the archetype of the Western gunslinger. So that kind of fits in there, doesn't it? All right. May 19th, Nathaniel Hawthorne, novelist and short story writer.
Know him.
We know him. June 14th, I just love this name. Leonidas Polk. Leonidas. I just like that word.
Good name.
He was the bishop of the Episcopal Diocese of Louisiana. August 9th. Okay, get ready for this. Fidelia Fisk. That's a fun name.
I like it.
American Congregationalist missionary and teacher. She founded the Fisk Seminary boarding school. October 1st, Rose O'Neill Greenhow, a Confederate spy active during the Civil War. October 12th, Roger B. Taney, former Chief Justice for the U.S. November 17th, Eliza Farnham, who is an American novelist, feminist, abolitionist, and activist for prison reform. So I had to look up a little bit more about this person because she seemed very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I found out. She was appointed matron of the women's ward at Sing Sing prison.
Ooh.
And changed. I know, this is why I had to do more, because it just said that. I was like, okay, I need to know more about this. So she was appointed matron of the women's ward at Sing Sing prison and changed the reading materials available to inmates, as well as for the use of music and kindness in the rehabilitation of prisoners. This caused much controversy, and she was forced to resign because, she was being kind.
People, yeah, weird.
Right. She went on to work in management at the Boston Institution for the Blind, then organized a society to assist destitute women in finding homes in the West. So she sounds like one heck of a woman, right?
Yeah.
Like, why don't we know about her? Why don't we hear about her?
It's because there's always those crazy stories that you see, and it's like, why do we not know about this?
I want to read a book about her.
Yeah.
Right. I want a biography about her that I can read all the things. So yeah. December 8th, George Boole, Boole, Boole. He was a mathematician, philosopher, and logician, best known as the author of The Laws of Thought. So there you go. There are laws for thinking, apparently.
Interesting.
December 10th, Henry Schoolcraft, American geologist, geographer, and ethologist, who is known for his studies of Native American cultures. That's an ethologist. December 17th, Myrtilla Minor, an American educator and abolitionist whose school for African American girls established against considerable racist opposition that grew into the only public university in Washington, D.C.
Interesting.
So, look, only interesting people here. All right, so those are the deaths. So here are the births. So now we have new life. January 1st, Alfred Stieglitz, let's say that's how you say it, an American photographer and art dealer, was born in Hoboken, New Jersey.
He's a Capricorn, January 6th. For those who are wondering.
Yes, I didn't do all that because I don't know.
I have it pulled up. Don't worry.
You're so good.
I have to know.
That can be you have to, okay. January 6th, Van Johnson, an American Baseball Hall of Fame executive. He is the founder and president of the American League. He was born in Norwalk, Connecticut, and he was a Capricorn. January 10th, George Washington Carver. Who's that?
Oh, look at him. Isn't he the guy that invented peanut butter?
Yeah.
Or they say that he is, but I don't think he is. I think that's a rumor.
No, really, it's peanut. He really did. He was an agricultural, easy for me to say, scientist. He invented peanut butter. He was born in Diamond Grove, Missouri.
He's a Capricorn as well.
There you go. February 7th, Arthur Collins, an American baritone vocalist known as the King of the Ragtime Singers. Isn't that fun? I know. He was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
He's an Aquarius.
He was an Aquarius. March 4th, David W. Taylor, a U.S. Navy architect who created the first towing tank, was born in Louisa County, Virginia. Pisces. March 14th, Casey John Jones, an American railroad engineer who died trying to save a train.
He's also a Pisces.
And that's where we get the ballad of Casey Jones. April 18th, Richard Harding Davis, an American journalist and author. He was The Soldiers of Fortune and The King's Jackal. He was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. He was a
Aries.
Okay. May 19th, Carl Ackley, Akeley. So I'm going to say Ackley, He was an American taxidermist and naturalist who developed the animal mount process and other techniques for museums, which I found interesting because the guys in my family have made use of taxidermy. Let's just say that. Sad fact, not fun fact. Somebody's deer head, not in my house, but someone in my family's deer head fell off the wall and broke a television recently.
I feel as though that is the deer spirit getting its revenge.
God gave us the animals.
Not to mount on the wall.
A big rack. It's a pretty big rack. I'm just saying. And we ate the meat.
People say that I have a nice rack as well, but I don't want someone to put it on a wall.
I mean, it's possible. you could do the cast, okay, little rabbit trail.
Mold.
Yeah. Like, have you watched Firefly Lane, the series?
No.
On Netflix? Okay, so you should. So one of the characters gets breast cancer and she gets a mastectomy. But before they do like a cast of her chest and then they pour it. And so like she has her boobs for forever.
I mean, I'm just saying I don't want them to end up on someone's wall. So that's that. Either way, he was a Taurus. So.
Okay. There we go. Little rabbit trail there. You're welcome. June 3rd. See, you learn all kinds of things. Ransom Eli Olds. He was American Auto. So Ransom Eli Olds. Can you guess what?
Oldsmobile
brand? Oldsmobile and truck REO manufacturer in Geneva, Ohio. And he was a
Gemini.
Okay. July 13th, John Jacob Astor the Fourth.
Ooh.
Yeah. Not Jingleheimer Schmidt.
No.
He was an American business magnate, real estate developer, Astoria Hotel, and soldier, and also the richest passenger aboard the Titanic. He was born in Rhinebeck, New York, and he was
a Cancer, like me.
Oh. October 28th, Adolfo Camarillo, a prominent philanthropist, ranchero, and horse breeder known for founding the city of Camarillo, or maybe Camarillo is how people say it. I don't know. California with his brother Juan. He donated the land for Adolfo Camarillo or Camarillo High School and also has the horse breed Camarillo White Horse named after him. In 1950, Pope Pius named him a Knight of Saint Gregory the Great, which I thought was pretty cool. I mean, that's
Saint Gregory is like the patron saint of animals.
Oh, didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. He was also a Scorpio. So
there you go. He did a lot. I mean, I was kind of impressed with him. November 5th, Jesse Ralph Patton Nee Chambers, which means that was the maiden name. American stage, silent, and sound screen actress of The Good Earth, San Francisco, and The Bank Dick. Was born in Massachusetts, and she was
a Scorpio.
There you go. November 11th, George Washington Creel, American surgeon who conducted the first direct blood transfusion and studied the effects of surgical shock, was born in Chile, Ohio.
Oh, he was also a Scorpio.
There you go. I thought that was pretty awesome. And this was all the way back in 1864.
Direct blood transfusion. That's a lot.
Yeah. December 6th, William S. Hart. Please don't put the middle initial and the last name together, because then you would have a very unfortunate name. So William S. Hart, American silent film actor of and he was in Wild Bill Hickok and Tumbleweeds, was born in Newburgh, New York.
He's a Sagittarius.
Sagittarius. My last one, December 31st, Robert G. Aitken. He was an American astronomer known for his study and discovery of binary stars. He was born in Jackson, California. And he was Sagittarius?
Capricorn.
A Capricorn.
Nope. So Capricorn bookends the year. So Capricorn is at the top of the year and at the end of the year.
See, I told you I don't know.
Close.
I just know I'm a Virgo. And Michael's a Taurus. That's all I know.
I am
And you're a Cancer.
I'm a Cancer, and my boyfriend is a Virgo. Cancers and Virgos are not supposed to work, so it's very odd that I'm surrounded by them.
Yeah. So you love me. What would you do without me?
I don't know. So we are on to our case for this week, or our episode, our story, our saga, if you will.
The main story.
The main event, whichever you prefer.
There you go.
So we are in between.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. We are in between two areas in Montana for this episode. They're about 1.5 miles away from each other, and both have a pretty interesting history. So we're going to kind of discuss both. And everyone that knows about the Old West has heard of these two cities. And it's funny that they're 1.5 miles apart from each other. The first one is Virginia City. And the other one is Nevada City. So it's Virginia and Nevada City. They're right beside each other, but they are big. They're very well known in the history of the West. So up first will be Nevada City, whichever you prefer, which is actually an unincorporated community rather than a city itself. It was settled in June of 1863 as a contemporary settlement along with Virginia City. When miners started coming into the area, they began settling the Adler Gulch, and eventually homes and businesses ran the length of the 14-mile gulch, earning it the nickname the 14-Mile City. In 1896, the Conry Placer Mining Company was organized to dredge the gulch for the next 24 years, destroying many of Nevada City's buildings. The dredges were then disassembled, and the heavy wooden barges were left to slowly be reclaimed by nature. So they just left them. Other original Nevada City buildings were destroyed when the highway was built through the area. Over the years, 14 original structures were preserved, and they remain in Nevada City. The majority of the buildings are present today were moved into the Nevada City Street for restoration. Nevada City is also home to North America's largest collection of automated music machines.
Cool.
Which can be found in the Nevada City Music Hall. As for Virginia City, it was established at the same time as Nevada City and became a mining district as well. Within weeks, Virginia City was a boom town of thousands of prospectors and fortune seekers in the midst of a gold rush. The remote region of the Idaho Territory was without law enforcement or a justice system, with the exception of miners' courts. So there were no police. There was no nothing. They had these little things that were called miners' courts. And that was kind of how things were ran, which is just wild. In late 1863, the great wealth in the region, the lack of a justice system, and the insecure means of travel gave massive rise to criminal activity, especially murder and robbery along the trails and roads of the region. Very well known. These criminals were eventually referred to as road agents, and they were responsible for up to 100 deaths between 1863, and 1864.
Oh, my goodness.
1 year. Mm-hmm. Because of these outbreaks of crime, a vigilance committee of Adler Gulch was formed, and they were known as the Montana Vigilantes. We will get back to them in a moment because they do take a pretty big part in our story this week. The Montana Territory was organized out of the existing Idaho Territory by act of Congress and was signed into law by President Abraham Lincoln on May 26 of 1864. Although Bannock was the first territorial capital, the territorial legislature moved the capital to Virginia City in 1865, and it remained the capital for the next 10 years when it then moved to Helena, Montana, not Helena.
Not Helena.
Not Helena. Big difference. And for those who are not in the Birmingham area, there is a Helena in the Birmingham area. It is not Helena. So in the early 1860s, during the first 3 seasons, an estimated $30 million worth of gold was removed from the gulch. Eventually, Virginia became a ghost town, the Virginia City, and had all been forgotten until its restoration in the 1940s. The town received National Historic Landmark status in 1962. And many of its buildings have been added to the National Register of Historic Places. Today, the Historic District of Virginia City and Nevada City is operated by the Montana Heritage Commission with financial and technical assistance from the National Park Services. The commission operates Gold Panning, the Nevada City Music Hall and Museum, and the Adler Gulch Railroad. You can still go there today. You can still take a tour of the town. It is, like I said, it's part of the National Park Services today. It is only open during certain times of the year, but it's pretty cool. It's a little ghost town that's like lost to the west, and they preserve some of the buildings and kind of put them all in one area. So
that's pretty cool. So have you ever been out west?
Not to like this area, no. Not to like areas like this, no. So I haven't been to like Nevada, like actual Nevada, not, anything like Nebraska, Montana. I haven't been to any of those areas.
I have been to Butte, Montana, and it is absolutely beautiful. I've been in the summertime and went in high school on a mission trip. It is absolutely gorgeous. And we went to a town where we had the missionary we worked with took us where they had mined for copper.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what the economy, that town grew up around was the copper mining, and just the old church. We saw the old church, and it was just a teeny tiny church, but it was so beautiful. And just you talking about the automatic music and just the old
really
west.
Cool.
Seeing that, and it's gorgeous.
It's really cool. So the story of George Lane is not uncommon when it comes to outlaws, especially in the time that we know of today as the Wild West. Not Wild Wild West.
I almost started singing, but I stopped myself.
Jim West, Desperado. Rough Rider. No, you don't want that. Anyways, I've already wrapped that in this exact podcast before. So I won't do it again. But you'll know. Each one has a nickname and an interesting story of how they became an outlaw. And some were in the wrong place at the wrong time. And just like that, they went one of two ways. They lived a life on the run, or they were killed for activities they never did.
Oh, dear.
George Lane was born in Massachusetts. He was burdened with the name Clubfoot George. Almost
so sad.
I know. And this is like, he's known as this everywhere. And so I couldn't, like, George Lane is not what he's known as. That's not like his name at all. And so I had to put this part in there. And so that's why I put he was burdened with this name. almost from his birth due to a congenital malformation in one of his feet. And so, as we said, this is an actual malformation. A lot of people, and I'll say this too, a lot of people will say defect, that it's a birth defect. And just like we've discussed, people change, people move forward, times change,
terminology changes.
So malformation is more of the accepted ish.
Kayla's got a ghost in her house.
I really do. Hold on a second. Y'all are going to hear me talk to Google, but hold on. Hey, Google, stop. Okay, sorry, guys. Apparently, my boyfriend was listening to something downstairs, but he has one of those home things that I absolutely hate in our bedroom. And I'm sitting in our bedroom recording, and all of a sudden I hear something talking off to the side of me. And I was like, what is going? So, anyways, sorry.
Y'all could have seen her face. It was great.
Sorry about that.
Like, there's a ghost in her house.
Yeah, it's happened. So anyways,
her dreams have come true.
It's not my dreams. I keep telling my boyfriend is a non-believer. That's all we'll say. And what's funny is his son is not. His son likes creepy things like I do. And so I always tell his son, I'm like, if we ever get haunted, it's your dad's fault. And we're going to leave the ghost to him. So that's just what we're doing here. So anyways, like I was saying, terminology changes, we move forward in time, and now malformation is kind of a more accepted word. So just in case people were wondering what that's about. So this is actually a birth malformation where this actually really sounds super painful, where one or both feet are rotated inward and down. If you can kind of imagine, I am extremely flat footed, like had to go to a podiatrist when I was little. And so I'm like, my ankles completely roll in when I stand up without shoes on. So
you're flat footed.
Extremely flat footed.
Now that I think about that, you are.
And so I can't imagine, and I can't wear shoes with arches because they'll hurt my feet. So it's a whole thing. So I can't, being somebody who lives with feet that do hurt, like pretty decently from like shoes, I can't imagine this as well, where your foot is rotated in and then forward. That just seems like you're walking on the top of your foot, essentially.
Yeah.
So this is actually one of the most common congenital malformations of the foot, with an incidence in 1 in 1,000 births. That's a lot more than I thought it was.
But they're able to correct that.
Yes. So without appropriate treatment, the foot malformation will persist and lead to pain and an impaired ability to walk. There is treatment for this now called the Ponseti method, but it was not popularized until the 1950s. So as George grew older, he became a general laborer in Massachusetts, but sometime between 1848 and 1855, during the California Gold Rush, George moved west. This was pretty common practice among men at this time, especially for single men. Married men would go out west and they would try and strike it big in gold so they could get the rest of their family up there. But a lot of single men during this time, they were kind of nomads. They were roamers. They were going to where they were following the money. And so George was one of those guys. While in California, he worked for a farm in Yuba County and later as a store clerk in Calaveras County. In 1860, George moved to the Washington Territory, following the path of gold miners. 2 years later, he was accused of, quote, running off horses. I don't know what that means. I don't know if he like opened a gate. I don't know. I couldn't figure out what that exactly meant.
Like whose horses? Like, did he like?
Yeah,
it could be like he let somebody's horses out of their corral, and because I mean horses were their means of transportation, big money.
He got in pretty big trouble, and that was in Idaho. And he actually turned himself into the commander of Fort Lapwai, where he was sentenced to do construction work. The next year, he was accused of stealing horses, but escaped from the town before he was caught. By the fall of 1863, George found himself in Virginia City, Montana. It just so happens the same year George came to town, the Montana Vigilantes Committee was formed. Now, I mentioned earlier that because of an outbreak in crime near mining camps, vigilante committees were formed as a type of law enforcement over the camps where there wasn't any. They only had miners' courts, and so this vigilante committee kind of formed itself. The Montana Vigilantes followed the model of the San Francisco Committee of Vigilance that existed in 1850s California. We actually talked about this briefly in an episode about events that were occurring. And this was kind of a similar thing there. They didn't have anything in San Francisco to really monitor things. And so this vigilance committee, well, in this case, the Vigilance Committee didn't think that the San Francisco police were doing a good enough job. So they just kind of formed themselves. This was not the case in Montana. They didn't have any law enforcement set up, but they
needed something.
Yeah, they kind of took after the model of what occurred in San Francisco. And so it was just to bring order to lawless communities in and around the gold fields of Adler Gulch and Grasshopper Creek, which I just like.
I like it.
There are estimates that over 100 persons were killed in road agent robberies between 1863 and 1864, like I said before. The Vigilance Committee of Adler Gulch organized in December of 1863 in response to all of this. And they just kind of formed this committee. They were like, we've had enough. We're done. We're going to create this. These minor courts are not doing enough. They're not actually going after these people. Kind of minors courts. Minors courts stepped in when something had already happened and there was already okay, we know this happened. We know who did it. Now we have to figure out what to do with them. That was minors court. They didn't actually enforce anything. They didn't
investigate.
Yeah, that wasn't them. So formal territorial law reached Adler Gulch in late 1864 with the arrival of territorial judge Hezekiah Hosmer. So
that's a name.
I know. And that is when vigilante activity stopped. So when he came in, that actually started a formal law enforcement process, and this vigilance committee stops. They were really only around for a year. But they did a lot of damage in that year. Even though they were there for good, we'll go into it. They may not have done as good as they wanted to.
Kind of like a good old boy system.
Yeah. And shoot first, ask questions later was a lot of that. So
yeah, vigilante justice, ring a bell.
That is exactly where this comes from. That term comes from these vigilance committees.
I thought maybe.
Yep. So as the goldfields of Adler Gulch and Grasshopper Creek declined in 1865, prospectors migrated to newly discovered areas in and around Last Chance Gulch, which was in Helena, Montana. As lawlessness increased, vigilante justice continued there with the formation of the Committee of Safety in 1865. So the Vigilant Committee really gained themselves a real bad name. So when everything kind of moved to Helena, no one wanted a vigilance committee anymore.
Yeah.
So they just they created the Committee of Safety. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's just change the name. Nobody will know.
No. There is a lot of information surrounding the Vigilance Committee that popped up, but for the purposes of this episode, we're just going to kind of stop there. There's a lot of vigilance committees that pop up around the U.S. itself, but North America as we know it in general. Once George arrived in Virginia City, he became a boot maker at the Dance and Stewart store. Dance was someone's last name, by the way.
Okay. I was going to say a dance story. Can you buy a dance?
The Montana vigilantes captured a man named George Ives, and he was set to have a vigilante trial. However, our George, during this time,
Clubfoot
George, yes. Our George thought that Ives needed a civilian trial rather than a vigilante trial. So, as I said, a vigilante trial was let's shoot first and ask questions later. And a civil trial was let's build a case, let's find out what's going on, let's see if there's actually any. Let's see if this case has got legs, as they say, or does it not. And so our George thought like Ives needed a case, like he needed an actual trial. The vigilantes shouldn't be the ones to just figure this out on their own. So because of that, George traveled to Bannock, Montana to inform the sheriff, Henry Plummer, of the trial. But Plummer wasn't there. And George spoke to 2 deputies instead. Well, George complained about the vigilantes in Virginia City, and it raised suspicions, and the deputies arrested him. The deputy said that he was arrested because he was, quote, a road agent, thief, and an accessory to numerous robberies and murders on the highway. George didn't resist arrest, but he did tell the deputies, quote, if you hang me, you will hang an innocent man. He's like, I just came to say that this guy, and in the eyes of the law in this case, they're like, this guy's coming in. He's saying that this guy that the vigilantes have already gotten needs to have an actual trial. Why is he defending this guy? What is he doing?
What dog does he have in this fight?
He's complaining about the Vigilance Committee, and he's coming to talk to Sheriff Henry Plummer. He's going to come back. So they're like, this guy, George, is one of our outlaws, suspected outlaws in this case, that was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And just this poor guy, like, yeah, he may not have been the best guy, but he wasn't the worst either. So they arrested him. He told them, if you hang me, you're going to hang an innocent man. Though some local residents believed that George was innocent, the members of the Vigilance Committee still found him guilty and sentenced him to death by hanging.
Yikes.
Yeah, it's rough. And like I said, in all of this, they're very much like, we're going to ask questions later. We're not going to really talk about much. We're just going to kind of go on. And shortly before the execution, Lane appealed to his employer to confirm his innocence. So the Dance and Stewart company that he worked for. And Dance responded that although Lane was always honest in dealings at work, he had no knowledge of George's other activities. Dance also admitted that the evidence against Lane was rather strong. Lane asked for more help, but he said, Lane didn't ask for any more help from Dance specifically, but he did ask Dance, quote, well, then will you pray with me? Dance agreed. Quote, willingly, George, most willingly. And according to a biographer, quote, suiting the action of the word, the judge dropped upon his knees and with George and Gallagher kneeling beside him, offered up a fervent petition in behalf of the doomed man. So, as you can see from what we've kind of discussed, this isn't like a very long case as far as George's goes, but he came in there and he basically was like, hey, my boss is here. He can vouch for me. And his boss was like, yeah, he's really great and he works for me, but like, I don't know what he does outside of work.
No, so, thanks, boss.
Yeah, and like George didn't have any family there, and nobody he knows is there, so he's just like,
this is the only person that knows me, and he's not gonna stand up for me.
Okay, okay, thanks, bye.
So
I guess. Thanks. So George was led out of the building to the gallows. He saw a friend of his who came to see the execution and said to him, "Goodbye, old fellow. I'm gone."
The friend came to see the execution.
Yeah. Lane took action, and witnesses reported that, quote, without waiting for the box to be removed.
Oh, dear.
He leapt from it and died with hardly a struggle. Yeah.
Well,
one witness to the execution said, quote, he was perfectly cool and collected. He evidently thought no more of hanging than the ordinary man would of eating his breakfast.
Wow.
So remember how I told you Henry Plummer was the sheriff that he was going to go talk to?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What George didn't know is that Henry Plummer was involved with the Gang of Innocents, who were the road agents that were operating in that area. And Henry Plummer was also the sheriff. So he was also a gang member who was a sheriff. George did not know that. He just went to go talk to the sheriff and was like, "Hey, this guy's not getting a fair shake. And I really need to talk to Sheriff Plummer." And the guys were like, "Why do you need to talk to him? Seems sketchy." And he was like, "Oh, I mean, I think the Vigilance Committee is not doing some great stuff in our area. And I mean, it just doesn't really seem very great." And they were like, "Oh, that's cool. Let's arrest you." They had no proof. They had nothing against George. George had nothing to do with any of it. But George was
he
like,
wasn't caught up in the.
He was like, so I told you at this time, if you were accused, there were one of two things. You either decided, that's it, it's a life of crime for me, it's pirate's life for me. You just go off into the sunset, or you were hanged. Those were your options. So poor George seemingly had nothing to do with any of this, which is why I said the Vigilance Committee did not get a good rap at all.
No.
So,
no.
George Lane
makes me think of. I'm sorry. It makes me think of Reba's song, because the judge in the town's got blood stains on his hands.
Yeah.
Well, it's not originally Reba's song, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
The night the lights went out in Georgia. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that was the nights that the lights went out in Georgia.
Thank you so much for bringing that line up. Oh my gosh.
Designing
Women. Julia Sugarbaker. Okay, guys, if you don't know Designing Women.
We have talked about Designing Women on here as well. Such a good show.
Well, let's bring it up again. Watch it. It's on Hulu.
Such a good
you
show.
Need to watch it. Such a great show. So good. Southern women. It's Golden Girls in Georgia.
Yes. Well, and younger.
And I think it's better than Golden Girls.
I do.
I liked it better than Golden Girls.
I thought it was too.
Okay.
Thanks. Glad we got that off our chest.
Okay. Okay. I'm Mary Jo.
Definitely Julie Sugarbaker. Anyways. I'm probably a mix between them, honestly. I'm definitely Dorothy. Even though I if any of you listen to True Crime Obsessed podcast, you'll know that Patrick is coming out with a book, and it actually comes out this month. Go purchase it if you have not. It's called Failure is Not an Option. And it's a story about his life. But one weekend when he was in college, B. Arthur was coming to his college to receive an award, and he was her like liaison for the weekend. And she was so mean to him. She could not remember his name, called him by the wrong name, and she was so mean to him, and he never forgot it. And he said that she would the only thing she wanted, she would yell at him and she would ask, she always wanted citron vodka, which if anybody knows what citron vodka is, it's citrus vodka. So it's just like lemon vodka. Hot.
Ew.
Hot.
That does
citron vodka.
That doesn't sound like a fun time.
No. And I always really, really liked Dorothy. And I always really liked B. Arthur because B. Arthur actually reminds me of my granny who died when I was like just at the beginning of college. And I love that woman. She was one of the best women you'd ever meet. And she reminds me of her. And I hate that B. Arthur was so mean. But I always did hear a lot that B. Arthur was not very nice. But
I have a friend whose mom and her friends, they're called the Golden Girls. Like in their church, they're known as the Golden Girls.
That makes sense.
That's what they're called.
That
Isn't that great?
That's wild. So,
okay.
George Lane was buried in an unmarked grave in Boot Hill Cemetery, along with other executed men who were also executed by the Vigilance Committee. Several years later, in 1907, some residents of Virginia City started questioning who was buried in each grave in the cemetery. This is kind of like paupers' graves that we've discussed before, where like paupers' graves, they're not really, named. So a former vigilante showed questioners where exactly George Lane was buried. The body was exhumed and his mummified Clubfoot was found.
Yep.
I'm going to just slide right past this. And Leah's not going to say anything. I'm going to see her face, but we know her feelings. So I'm just going to say it and we're going to scoot right past it. Okay, guys?
Okay. I'm going to hold my hand over my mouth.
For some time, the Clubfoot was kept in the courthouse. But later it was moved to the Thompson Hickman Museum in Virginia City. It has since become one of the museum's most important exhibits. The Clubfoot was later removed from the museum by Lane's extended family. It was cremated and the ashes were spread at a ceremony on Boot Hill on June 24th of 2017.
It's about dang time. It's about dang time.
A family member and Catholic Church deacon Robert Lane told the crowd that was assembled for the ceremony, quote, "Well, there's not much left of George's foot."
That was it?
But as preparations were made to sprinkle the ashes of the foot onto the grave, it seemed that George was going to remain stubborn to the end. Family members struggled to open the box holding his ashes.
Oh, bless it.
And they finally got the box open to scatter them after several minutes. After first sprinkling holy water from Ireland upon the site, Deacon Lane scattered the ashes of George's foot upon the top of his grave. And Clubfoot George got his foot back after having it separated from his body for over 100 years.
Well, that makes me happy that they reunited his foot with his body because that's how it should be. It shouldn't. What?
That's the unfortunate story of George Lane and his.
Why did they remove it to start?
I don't know.
I mean,
and I don't know if his story is just one that in that area is so well known that they were like, this is a good idea, but that's never a good idea, guys. It's never a good idea. Never.
why would you go and say, I think here's what we need to do to increase tourism into our museum.
I mean, I would book a flight.
Yes, you would. Here's what we need to do. We need to go dig up Clubfoot George's Clubfoot. Just
no. They already dug it up. Then saw the mummified Clubfoot. Then business idea.
Okay.
How do we capitalize?
Y'all, it's mummified. That means
it's safe. We can put it in a case. We're going to put it in a glass case.
Can we use it as a doorstop? Is that too? No, people would trip over it. No, I mean, y'all, come on.
So that is the unfortunate story of George Lane and the Montana Vigilance Committee that was questionable with their decisions at best. So yeah, I know that was a little bit shorter than sometimes some of our cases are, but
we had a lot to catch up on too.
We did, but also I just like kind of a lot of things like we've discussed before. Our case that's coming up is pretty big that we're discussing next. Like gonna take a while to go through, so maybe 2 episodes. So I kind of have made it a point, and you'll notice like in the past few episodes that even though we're in the time of the Civil War, I want to make sure that we're not just discussing just the Civil War.
Right.
Because there are stories like this that occur, and like this guy was seemingly innocent. Like, yeah, he did some things in his life that weren't great, but like he wasn't a road agent from everything that it appears. And he's another person that like could very easily get lost to history because it occurred during the Civil War and too many people are worried. And then especially with the events that are going to occur in 1865 that we're going to go through, that if you were a history buff, you know what's coming up, then this is easily a story that could get lost. So I try to find some of those that we can keep their name alive somehow.
Right.
Especially in cases like this, where like this is a guy that may be known as, I mean, in a lot of things, he was known as Clubfoot George the Outlaw. And everything that I researched, I was like, but was he?
Yeah, it seems like he was just.
I mean, he did some things here and there. Like, yeah, he stole horses once. Yeah, he let horses go or let them run free or whatever.
Do we know that he really did steal the horses? Do we know that he really did?
But yeah, and so it was just it's interesting. So, in our sources for this week, the Bozeman magazine, Bozeman, Montana, and Legends of America. Georgia's story was on their site. Legends of America is actually a really good website. They have a lot of really good stories on there that are very much tied to this kind of time period. So I'm sure we're going to be pulling from them a lot more. But yeah, that's everything for him this week. If you're looking for more of us in your life, and we can never blame you, go to our website.
We're fantastic.
Our delight.
We are delights.
That's what we hear. So that is onenationundercrime.com. All of our social media links are located on our site, and you can even contact us there if you like. If you have a suggestion, topic, anything like that, please let us know.
Don't be ugly.
No, be nice.
Please.
Speaking of, we're still looking to get 100 podcast reviews. Hopefully, we said by end of summer, we're looking for, in the year, anything like that. Please go give us a 5-star review. You can go to our website, Apple or Spotify, anywhere that you listen to our podcast. Go leave us a 5-star review. Leave us at least 5 words. 5 words is kind of the magic for the algorithm.
Leah and Kayla are the best.
Oh, that's
6 words.
So you're one over. So there you go.
Make 7 words.
7, even better. So if y'all could just go do that for us, it takes like a minute. And we would really, really appreciate it. It also helps other people find our podcast, which also helps us with funding, helps us put this out. So greatly, greatly appreciate that.
It gives joy to others. I mean, really, because we are such a joy.
That's really all that we can hope for is to just always spread joy to others. That's our goal.
I mean, that's what I do. I don't know about Kayla. She spreads sarcasm, but I spread joy.
That is true. I'm not gonna deny
no
it.
lies detected.
So we really appreciate you guys for listening to this week's episode of One Nation Under Crime.
We do.
We will see you here same time,
different crime
next time. And remember, there isn't always liberty and justice for all. And I cannot think of a better case that this matches with.
No.
This one.
And not for mummified feet either.
No. Never a good day for mummified feet, to be honest.
Let's just leave skeletons and corpses intact. Let's just make it a rule that you have to do that. Let's not desecrate
we'll
graves.
Keep that. We'll keep that to itself. We'll just keep body parts together. I think that's a good one. For
murder is bad.
Yeah, murder is bad, and keep body parts together. That's it.
and be a kind human.
There you go. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.